Hello, my son and I recently stayed at Dinky Line Campground at Savage Gulf State Natural Area, which is part of the South Cumberland State Park system. It was October the 12th and 13th of 2017, and I thought I would share some random thoughts and information about the campground and our experience. There is only one privy at the campground, which is really all that's needed since there's only 4 campsites at the campground. To get to the campsites, it originally looked like it was kind of overgrown, but that wasn't the case at all. It was just we had to follow a bit more trail to get to our campsite. We stayed at campsite number 4, which I personally think was awesome. We had a really good time at this spot. I believe the campgrounds is 3.6 miles from the trailhead at Savage Gulf Ranger Station. It seems as though the campground may not be used a lot, but it is very well maintained for being out in the wilderness. Dinky Line Campground is remote, and we felt really secluded. There were only 4 campsites at this campground, but they are spaced fairly far apart from each other. When I reserved this spot, which was site number 4, there were only 2 other spots taken. At the campground, we did not really notice anyone else was there. We did meet some ladies from Chattanooga with a precious dog named Tillers as we went to the privy. Sorry we did not film the other sites, but we did take a gander at site number 2 as we went to the bathrooms. Both sites looked really nice and maintained and spacious. I have to say that I think I slept better at this campground than I have at any other camping spot, including my own yard. The only noises were some howls in the distance as we started to drift off to sleep, and around 5 a.m. there were some owls that were communicating with each other. Oh, and there was the occasional nut or pine cone falling, which could be startling. I just had to keep reminding myself of what it actually was, and that it wasn't an axe murderer gallivanting through the woods randomly coming by our campsite. There had been lots of downed trees that could be used for firewood. By the way, I want to make it clear that I use the word downed. I would hate for my mom to come after me with a bar of soap. Everything was really wet, and we had settled for a wimpy fire. But we did leave the makings for a good start of a fire for the next folks if the wood ended up being dried out by the time they got there. My little boy was proud to be able to do this for the next group of people that were able to use the campsite, and it gave him something to do as I packed up the tent and all of our belongings. I had read that there is no water access at the campgrounds, but Brett and I found this stream just a short walk, about 2 or 3 minutes to the privy. I suspect that water resource is not always reliable. Hurricane Nate had just come through, and just before Nate, we had had Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma, so we were having a little more wet conditions than normal for this time of year. Maybe some folks that watch this video that have been through here at different times, whether they were staying at Dinky Line or going to or from Hobbs Cabin, could leave a comment as to whether or not they had water at this source. Savage Day Loop and the North Rim and then the North Plateau. For the most part, the trail to get to the campgrounds is fairly easy, with several footbridges and suspension bridges. The suspension bridges offer some beautiful views. The trail map indicates that this is an easy trail, and for the most part it is. But with that being said, there is a section as you're coming up to, I believe it's called Meadow Creek, that does get a little sketchy. The trail gets a bit steep, and when you get closer to the creek, it gets rocky. As long as you're paying attention to what you're doing and watch where you put your step, you should be fine. The area where the North Rim Trail and the North Plateau Trail meet is probably the roughest for the whole trail, and it wasn't that bad. I just thought I'd throw this section in so that people can get an idea of what this part of the trail looks like. As you're approaching the Plateau Trail, it is even more rocky, but it doesn't last for very long. And I think Beretta really enjoyed going over the rocks. According to information that I got from the Visitor Center, in the 1860s, a Swiss colony had located in this area, and there was a family by, I think, the name Warner that had a sawmill, and they had used a narrow gauge railroad, and I think that's what these tracks may have been. It's my understanding that they called the narrow gauge railroad the Dinky Line, and that's probably where the campground got its name. But I thought this section was really interesting. At the time that we were going down the trail, I did not realize that there had been a railroad that went through here. I thought they just carved the trail out this way. I really appreciate the efforts and hard work that all of the volunteers, Friends of the South Cumberland, and the park rangers go through to provide such a serene wilderness and a place to go exploring. I'd like to thank you for watching and hope this encourages you to give Dinky Line Campground a try.